Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the in-news series. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Not a very great news for the translocated cheetahs. Out of 20 that we translocated from the continent of Africa, 2 have died. Only 18 are remaining. There are many questions surrounding it. Like, are we really investing in the correct translocation? Is this translocation viable? What are the threats, or how do cheetahs actually die? All these things are important for us to know from the perspective of GS Mains Paper 3rd and also 2nd and 1st, and also from the perspective of preliminary examination. So first of all, before we actually get into the topic, let us know about cheetahs. So as you can see, the slide shows us these are the oldest of the big cat species. The ancestors of them can be traced back about 8.5 million years. Number of cheetahs are just under 7,500 individuals globally. IUCN's Red List recognizes cheetahs as vulnerable species. The Asiatic cheetah and the Northwest African cheetah are critically endangered. Cheetahs have lost about 90% of their global habitat, and they now live in 9% of its historic range, the historic countries to which they belonged. Now, if we talk about the cheetahs translocation program, 20 cheetahs, out of which 8 from Namibia were translocated earlier this year, as in 2022, a later part of this year, beg your pardon, and the remaining 12 from South Africa were brought later on. They are translocated to Kuno National Park of Madhya Pradesh. Actually, Kuno National Park is a well-suited habitat which has been studied purely for the translocation of cheetahs. It will have a 600-hectare fenced enclosure to house the cheetahs. Another question also remains, is it really okay to have the cheetahs in an enclosure? Now, what is the carrying capacity of Kuno? It is just 21 cheetahs. Because of this issue, there are many other prospective sites which are also in consideration. Now, what is the long-term population size that has been expected? 36 max. And are there similar relocation programs? South Africa to Malawi, Mozambique are also there. Could it share its space? Yes, with Asiatic lion, but there is a very harmful predator for cheetahs in Kuno, that is leopard population, the leopard population. Moving on. Now, one of the 12 cheetahs flown in from South Africa in February, a 6-year-old male named Uday, died in the Kuno National Park on April 23rd morning. 20 cheetahs were brought to India, that I have already told you. One more has died, and it was a 5-year-old Sasha, one of the 8 cheetahs that arrived from Namibia last September, died on March 27. There are only 18 now. So generally we have to understand that since ancient times we have been recording the occurrence of cheetahs, but they have declined. They were officially declared to be extinct in India only in the year 1952. What are the different causes? First is reduced level of genetic heterogeneity due to historic genetic bottleneck, which results in high infant mortality in the wild. They couldn't evolve enough to have a good, longevity, and that is why there was a record high mortality registered for the infants, cheetah infants. Also, their reduced ability to breed in captivity were some other major issues. Sport hunting was one of the major issues, not only because of the British, but the medieval kings and queens of India also resulted in its decline. From the 16th century onwards, detailed accounts of its interaction with human beings are available, as it was recorded by the Mughals and the other kingdoms in the Deccan. Later on, bounty killings were made a trend because the British added the woes of the species by declaring a bounty for killing it in 1871, and for sports and this bounty killing, it led to the exaggerated declining of the population. It is recorded that the last cheetahs were shot in India in 1947 and declared extinct officially in 1952. See, currently, let's talk about the current situation, the dying of the cheetahs. Was this anticipated? Yes, it was kind of. The Cheetah project did anticipate high mortality. It was said that at least 10 are going to die out of 20. The criteria for the project's short-term success was only 50% survival of the introduced cheetah for the first year. That would be 10 out of 20. It had, but many people, critics are believing, still they are believing, that India had overestimated Kuno's carrying capacity for cheetahs. It is a lesser range for the cheetahs than earlier expected or anticipated. The field experience of this project staff at Kuno also, backed this assessment. As a result, the Madhya Pradesh is currently, what was our initial expectation from this project? That okay, we will bring the cheetahs, we will let them manage themselves. A natural management system could be evolving if we brought the cheetahs here. But that did not happen. So as a result, the Madhya Pradesh government has set a 6-month deadline for readying Gandhi Sagar in the Chambal River Valley in Mandsaur and Neemuch district for the translocation of few cheetahs. Now, this will result in moving a few animals from Kuno to the safety of an 80 square kilometer fenced area in Rajasthan's Mukundra Hills Tiger Reserve. Now, earlier, as I told you, the aim was to establish the cheetah in an open landscape so that it can flourish and thrive freely as a free-roaming and self-sustaining population which could occupy thousands of squares of miles. But now what we are doing, we are moving them from here and there. That means we are also managing, not also, we are only managing them. So it has resulted in managing the African imports as a few pockets population in a fenced area or restricted population. The natural distribution has not evolved as of yet. Moving on. Now, because of the absence in India, there is an absence of natural dispersal. That means we are dispersing them according to our own will. It is a man-made dispersal, not natural. So it takes a lot of time for the selected animals to be dispersed naturally and freely. So it is very hard to manage a meta population. It involves moving the suitable individuals from one pocket population to another. Kuno is one pocket, when the Mukundra Hills is another pocket. The meta population management in Africa, according to a study, it conserved the declining population of 217 cheetahs in 40 small populations in South Africa. So we could learn from that. Now in 2009, for example, 40 fenced reserves in South Africa. It held only 289 cheetahs, even though as many as 343 were translocated to 48 fenced reserves. From where? From Namibia and South African ranches since 1965, and once the supply was stopped in 2009, the numbers further fell to 117 by 2012. Now, the certain key factors were taken into consideration because of the predators, which is the highest accounting factor when it comes to the declining population of cheetahs in Africa. High lion density, this issue were identified and addressed before the shuffling cheetahs from one place to another. In 6 years, the meta population grew to 328 cheetahs, which the current situation is we can learn from Africa somehow by the offering a viable roadmap for the South African model of conserving animals in fenced reserve, because as I again told you, it is a Kuno and Mukundra will be a fenced population. It won't be free population of cheetah. So we can learn from South Africa how to, engage human beings and cheetahs, as in they do not pose a threat to each other. So how do the cheetahs die? Let's talk about a study that was conducted taking a sample of 293 cheetahs in South Africa. It said that holding camps caused 6.5% of cheetahs' death. Immobilization or transit caused 7.5 death, 7.5%. 0.7% were caused by tracking devices, and now all this adds to almost 15%. That means 1 in every 7 cheetah deaths was attributed to handling and mismanagement. So this is something that we have to consider. Predation, that is the higher predator from cheetah, used to kill it. Even other not so normal predators come into the picture. Predation is the biggest killer in the study. which was conducted, which accounted for 53.2% of cheetah mortality. Predators such as lions, leopards, hyenas and jackals were primarily responsible. Others were also seen in the picture, such as warthogs, baboons, snakes, elephants, crocodiles, vultures, zebras, and even ostriches killed cheetahs. Now, in Africa, the lion is the chief predators of cheetahs, but in India, in Kuno specifically, that place could be taken up by the leopards. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. Moving on, cheetahs suffered very high cub mortality, as I told you, because of historical genetic issues. So up to 90% in protected areas are there mainly due to predation. Moving on. Now, right now, what options does the Project Cheetah have? Let's talk about that. Now, the current project can choose to cut the risk by settling for the South African model of retaining a few pockets population and fence reserve. But if it chooses not to make this compromise, the project does face an uphill task. It is not very bright because it does not seem to have carried out necessary governmental studies and groundwork before bringing in the animals. As it is said that Kuno's capacity has been overestimated. Now, the project should find a way for people and cheetahs to share space in central Indian landscape. Then only they can move freely in their historical range in India. I hope you understood this topic. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.